On December 23, 1954, medical history was made with the first ever organ transplant. 23-year-old Richard Herrick of Massachusetts had been diagnosed with kidney disease, often a death sentence at the time. There was little hope of a cure. Herrick's doctor, however, informed him that doctors and scientists at nearby Harvard Medical School and the world-famous Brigham Hospital in Boston were devising ways to potentially transplant healthy kidneys into those whose organs had failed, and they were looking for twins to attempt the first operation. The team was led by a young surgeon and professor named Dr. Joseph Murray. 2 days before Christmas, Ronald Herrick donated a kidney to his twin brother, Richard Herrick. The surgery took 5.5 hours and was performed by Dr. Murray, who was awarded the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 1990 for his pioneering efforts in transplantation. Tragically, Richard, the recipient of this first transplant, died 8 years later, but from unrelated causes. His brother Ronald lived 56 years after the groundbreaking surgery, dying in 2010 at age 89. This first ever organ transplant ushered in a new era in medicine. Like the Herrick brothers, most early living donors were biological relatives of the recipient. This was done both to reduce the risk of organ rejection and to recognize the special bond between donor and recipient. Later, as transplant treatment improved, transplants between non-relatives became more common. Some people now choose to be living donors without ever meeting their recipient. Although not necessarily routine, organ transplants are now commonplace. In fact, in the US, there were over 42,000 successful transplants just in the year 2022. 25,000 of those were kidney transplants. Better than 95% of kidney transplant recipients today survive the first year after surgery, and more than 80% are still alive 5 years later. Some have lived more than 50 years. Here are other events that happened today in history. In 1783, General George Washington resigns as Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army. In 1805, Joseph Smith, founder of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, is born in Vermont. In 1888, Dutch painter Vincent van Gogh, suffering from depression, cuts off the lower part of his left ear. In 1948, Hideki Tojo and 6 other Japanese leaders are executed for war crimes committed in World War II. In 1964, the Beach Boys' Brian Wilson suffers a breakdown and is replaced by Glenn Campbell on tour. In 1972, in the NFL playoffs, the Steelers defeat the Raiders on Franco Harris's Immaculate Reception. In 2009, Richard Heen is sentenced to 90 days for perpetrating the Balloon Boy hoax in Colorado. And now, it's time for our Today in History quiz. In its early years, many of the books in the Library of Congress were acquired from the personal library of which founding father? George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, or John Adams? Think you know the answer? Drop your guesses in the comments below. Find out if you're right tomorrow on Today in History.